Good morning. How the devil are you doing this fine day? Hope you're all fit and well. How was your weekend? Mine was eventful, but I'll save that for our gripe of the day. As today is Monday, my latest weekly column has dropped. It's called The Age of Obfuscation, but don't let that put you off. You can read it using the link that I'm just about to post in the chat, if I can remember where I've put it. I'm fairly sure it is this one. Thankfully, it is. A couple of late arrivals there. There's Dan Cullen and Mark Whiting, both just arrived. Good morning, chaps. Thank you very much indeed for being here. Don't know what happened to my voice there. The basic premise of my column this week is the refusal of just about everyone these days to fess up, to put their hands up and say, yep, my bad, or to take ownership of an issue of their own making. Excuse me, I didn't know it when I was writing it, but the column is incredibly timely in light of the Russell Brand allegations over the weekend. The fact that there will be no corporate manslaughter charges brought against the companies and individuals involved in the death of two demolition workers in an incident at Redcar 4 years ago. And when we have a Prime Minister that considers a helicopter a regular form of transport while people in the UK are being forced to steal in order to feed. I'll come back to that final point at the end of the show. Just one final thing before we get started. We have another hat up for grabs. This is what it looks like. There you are. I don't wear these flat brimmed ones myself, so be glad to get rid of this one. But it's a very smart hat, as you can see. Cymex, all the way from sunny Italy. Currently sunny anyway. If you'd like to be with a chance of owning that damn fine piece of headwear, you can enter the prize draw by typing Cymex into the chat. You can see it on the front of the hat there, SIMEX. But just to make life a little bit easier, you can see it scrolling across the bottom of your screen right now. SIMEX into the chat. We'll get back to that at the end of the show. Now, without further ado, let me roll the intro, post the question of the day, and get this show on the road. Good morning, one and all. Just don't forget, type Cymex into the chat. It is Monday, the 13th. No, it is Monday, the 18th of September. Welcome to the highly perfumed box of delights that is the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony. In today's show, when the only justice is injustice, we travel to the Wacker Neuson Universe. Bobcat offers some excavator operating advice, and we get a sneak peek at the latest wheeled excavators from Case. Plus, XCMG shows off its mining might in Indonesia. And I promise we will get to all of that in just a second. But first, let's quickly peer back through the mists of time to see what was happening on this day in history. On this day in 1502, Christopher Columbus landed in Costa Rica on his fourth and final voyage. In 1793, George Washington laid the foundation stone at the Capitol building in Washington, D.C. In 1951, A Streetcar Named Desire premiered, complete with Marlon Brando. I could have been someone. I could have been a contender. Pretty much sums up my life, to be honest. In 1964, the Addams Family TV show premiered on ABC. And on this day in 2022, US President Joe Biden declared the COVID-19 pandemic officially over. Now, before we get into the real meat of the show, let me quickly remind you of our question of the day. Yeah, which country, in your opinion, has the very best food? Excuse me. Imagine you have the ability to travel anywhere in the world for a single memorable meal. Where are you going? Personally, I love Spanish food. Single best meal I've ever had was in Belgium. But for me, it would be a toss-up between the elegance of Japanese food or the simplicity of Italian cuisine. Quite how the Italians can transform such humble ingredients into such amazing food is a mystery, and I can't wait to get back there in a couple of weeks' time. But what about you? Which country has the best food? Let us know in the chat. Now, as it stands at the moment, I can tell you there is only one entry. I don't know why, but there is only one entry into our hat competition. We need you, as you can see at the bottom of the screen there, to type Cymex into the chat. As it stands at the moment, Gary Muirhead is going to win it by default. But if you would like to be in with a shout and possibly nick it from under Gary's nose, please enter Cymex into the chat. Now, some of this. Tomorrow will mark the 4th anniversary of an incident at the Teesworks facility in Redcar, in which 2 workers perished in horrific circumstances during a demolition project operated by John F. Hunt. You might recall that I interviewed Anne Mackay, the widow of one of the men, only a few months ago. Well, she has just learned that there will be no manslaughter charges brought. The fact that the investigating authorities didn't inform her of this fact directly merely underlines their insensitivity. Excuse me 1 second. Anne, like the rest of us, learned about this latest turn of events via a short bulletin from the Health and Safety Executive. That bulletin reads, "The investigation into the deaths of 2 men at Teesworks site in 2019 will now be led by the Health and Safety Executive. On the 19th of September 2019, John Mackay and Tom Williams died following an explosion at the site. Following a thorough investigation by Cleveland Police and the Health and Safety Executive, there is insufficient evidence to support gross or corporate manslaughter charges. The families of the deceased have been informed of this decision. The Health and Safety Executive Principal Inspector John Heslop said, although some of these developments are difficult for the families of John and Tom, I have assured them that the criminal investigation into their deaths remains ongoing. We have made it clear our investigation will be a thorough one while also recognising the desire for a speedy conclusion. This remains a criminal investigation that Cleveland Police will continue to support." Now, we will be bringing you an exclusive video interview with Anne Mackay and her sister-in-law on tomorrow's show. In fact, we'll be dedicating the first half of the show tomorrow to that interview and to all things related to that incident. You can also view my previous interview with Anne from earlier this year using the link that I'm just about to post in the chat. It is that one. You can see that one right there. I'm going to come back to this a little bit later, but just to set your minds whirring, John F. Hunt won that job with a bid of £99,000. The top bid, which involved cold cutting rather than hot cutting, which was used by John F. Hunt, was £339,000. So very much the cheapest option was selected. John Mackay himself was an access platform operator, not a demolition operative, an access platform operator. Was he trained? Was he equipped to be cutting a vessel in that way? And given the fact that this was a vessel, a steel vessel, containing, on an industrial site, was that vessel thoroughly investigated for what was inside? Were the team fully prepared? All of those questions currently remain unanswered, and I'd love to get your thoughts about all of that in the chat. Now, let's go with this.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
You might recall that I missed a few days last week. I did miss a few days last week because I was swanning about in Germany, taking in the sights and immersing myself in Bavarian culture. When I say Bavarian culture, I mean eating schnitzel mainly. Aside from the schnitzel and the lederhosen, I didn't, but the main reason I was there was to visit the Wacker Neuson Universe. And here is just a sneak preview of what I saw.
I'm Mark Anthony of Diggers and Dozers, and we're here in Bavaria, in Germany, for the Wacker Neuson Universe and Dealer Summit 2023. Stay tuned for more of this, and this, and this.
As you can probably tell, it really was a tremendous event. And as you saw, a ton of exciting new equipment on display. We will be bringing you more of that in the coming weeks and, well, days and weeks and months, possibly. I'm going to answer a very quick question from the fine folks from Gary Muirhead, actually. Is that Bob the battery? Yes, that is the Battery One battery. Bob. Battery One battery. Al Grierson says the EW100 looks like a really tidy machine. It is a really tidy machine. So nice photos of the equipment. Yeah, we've got plenty more of that to come. And I'll be telling you there. The digger girl was out there. Yeah, we saw Amy while we were there. She had the worst possible journey. She was supposed to be flying in from Glasgow to Munich. Her first flight was cancelled. She then rescheduled, I think, to fly out of Edinburgh in the end, and she had been up since about 3 o'clock in the morning, same as myself and my son Fred, and she finally made it to the event at about 11:30 that night. And it was made worse by the fact that an Uber driver had basically deposited her in a field about 5 miles away from where she needed to be. Absolute disgrace, but there you are. Tom Whiting has just joined us as well. Morning, Tom. Morning. I found you on this side now. Really like the look of the new EW100. Home to seeing one here in the UK. It's only a matter of time. I'm absolutely sure. Jim Turner says, tidy little duck. There are more ducks headed this way. So yes, keep watching. But yeah, as I say, Amy did turn up. Pleasure to see her. Pleasure to see Dan Smith, her agent as well. Incidentally, my son Fred, who was the primary reason for us going, I think he's got a couple of videos from that now on, I think one on TikTok, one on Instagram, both of which have topped the 1 million mark. In fact, I think one of them's done 2 million now. So yes, the Wacker Neuson products are looking really, really popular over on social media as well. Now, let's get back to what we were talking about before. I can tell you we now have 8 entries to win the Simex hat. There you are. That's what it looks like. You can see how to enter the competition right across the bottom of your screen. Just type Simex, S-I-M-E-X, into the chat to enter. We'll be doing the prize draw at the very end. Now, there is a big mining exhibition taking place in Indonesia in the next few days, and the team at XCMG is apparently planning to take the event by storm. This is a new video they produced specifically for the event. Yeah, I know I've done a lot of travelling this year, but I really wish I was going to that event. I've never been to Indonesia for one thing, but I do love me a bit of mining equipment. All things being equal, myself and Fred will be off to the Mine Expo show in Las Vegas around about this time next year, actually. And the weather, oh dear, the average weather in Vegas around about this time of year, around about 40 degrees. So that will be fun. Now, let's have a spot of this.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
I realise a lot of you drive excavators for a living. You're all very good at what you do. But I also know that I personally benefit from the occasional refresher. So I thought I'd share this with you. Well, as soon as I can find it, it's here.
Hello, I'm Mike Fitzgerald with Bobcat. I'm here next to a tough and versatile Bobcat compact excavator. Today, I'm going to show you some basic operation pointers for these machines. Before we begin, let me remind you to be a qualified operator, you must read and understand the warnings and instructions provided in your operation and maintenance manual. Take some time to learn and understand the warnings and instructions before you use your machine. You can also find more information at bobcat.com/training. Now you can start the machine. Run the machine at low idle to warm the engine and hydraulic system before you start operating. Machines warmed up with moderate engine speed and light load have a longer life. If you're a new operator, start by using the machine in an open area. All operators should check the work site and be sure there are no bystanders nearby. Familiarize yourself with the controls until you can operate the machine efficiently and safely for all the conditions you'll find in your work area. When operating the hydraulic controls, use the left and right joysticks to move the boom, arm, bucket, and upper structure slew. There are two control pattern options. The joysticks can be used in either the standard control pattern or in the ISO control pattern. The excavator is equipped with a standard ISO selector valve below the operator's seat, allowing the operator to switch between the standard control pattern and the ISO control pattern. Rotate the lever counterclockwise to select the standard control pattern. Rotate the lever clockwise to select the ISO control pattern. Before you begin using the work group, lower the blade. Pull the lever backward to raise the blade. Push the lever forward to lower the blade. Push the lever forward until the lever is in the lock position to put the blade in the float position. Pull the lever backward to unlock from the float position. Always keep the blade lowered when digging for increased performance. Now let's go over traveling in the compact excavator. First, raise the boom slightly to get the bucket off the ground. Rotate the upper structure, if necessary, to ensure the blade is at the front of the machine as you sit in the operator's seat. Next, slowly move both steering levers forward for forward travel, backward for reverse travel. Travel can also be controlled with foot pedals. Now you have some of the basics to begin using a compact excavator. One of the most common tasks you'll find on a job site is digging next to a wall, structure, or foundation. We will now go over some of the features on this Bobcat excavator that can make you more efficient when performing this type of work. The first is the Bobcat exclusive in-track swing frame, which allows you to get closer to your work. The swing castings and cylinders stay within the track width when offset digging, giving you the ability to dig flush up against an obstacle while still being able to see the work area. Another thing to consider on an excavator is the machine's tail swing configuration. Conventional tail swing excavators have greater lift capacity and digging capabilities when compared to zero or minimal tail swing excavators. However, their housings extend beyond the tracks when rotating, which means you may not be able to get flush up against an obstacle or rotate a full 180 degrees. Minimal tail swing excavators reduce the risk of inadvertent contact to nearby objects or structures. Zero tail swing excavators rotate within the track frame, thus are ideal for confined spaces. Once you are positioned next to the wall, lower the blade and begin to make shallow, lengthy cycles in a controlled manner to avoid hitting or damaging the wall. Bobcat excavator controls provide predictable and precise work groove movements for this type of work. Once you have reached your desired depth, reposition the excavator so you can reach your last known grade point. Continue moving back as you finish each section of the trench. An optional extendable arm allows you to telescope the arm to extend the machine's dig depth and reach without repositioning. This is a great feature to consider if you frequently dig near foundations. Now you have some basic tips for operating an excavator while digging next to a wall or structure. For more information about Bobcat excavators, talk to your local Bobcat dealer or visit bobcat.com.
Another excellent video from the very excellent people over at Bobcat. Just to let you know, I'm going to hop over to the chat very quickly. I do have one more clip to share with you, and it's only a quickie, but I think you'll like it. We'll bring that to you after well, we'll get back to that in a second. What I will tell you is that the last film is about 30 seconds in length. So you probably have less than a minute to type the word Simex into the chat, SIMEX, for your chance to win the Simex hat. Now, I'm going to hop over to the chat very quickly. I know Ken Hatcher was a big fan of that video. That is a very good video. Yeah, very good, very simple set of instructions, but yeah, very easy to understand. Dan Cullen says, I say the same thing to guys on site. Jim Turner says, I always tell new operators to use their feet for travel, much safer to keep your hands on the levers. I think that video was preaching to the converted. And I realise that Graham Footy Williams is struggling with the spelling because of all things related to his dyslexia. But unfortunately, Graham, it ain't going to pick you up, I'm afraid, my friend, because you're not spelling it right. And I realise that's virtually impossible for you. We'll have to, I don't even know how to begin to figure it out, but we will have to figure something out to make sure that you get a fair crack of the whip on these things. Now, as I said, we do have one final film to bring you before we find out who has won the Simex hat. So let's roll this.
If you would like to buy a limited edition Break Fast show sticker, head on over to buymeacoffee.com/demolition news/extras.
Yeah, I found myself on the horns of a dilemma last week. Should I go to Derby to check out the latest kit from Case, or should I hop on over to Germany to check out the latest kit from Wacker Neuson? I opted for Wacker Neuson, as you saw earlier in the show, which meant I missed out on seeing some of the new products from Case. Thankfully, YouTube has sprung to my rescue. Still stand by my decision to go to Germany instead of Derby, but I have to admit those excavators do look very smart indeed. Okay, people, it's time to find out who has won our Simex prize draw. But before I do it, just to show you the sort of people that we have in our midst, Chris Ford has entered the competition, and he says if he wins, Graham, our friend Footy Williams, can have it. Jim Turner says, I don't want the hat, so count my entry as Graham's as well. And I think I've just, based on that, I think I've just figured out a way to make sure that Graham is entered into it. In future, I'll enter myself. Wouldn't that be easier? Kerry Jones says, the Sprocket Man can fill you in on Case. Yeah, I did see some of his photographs. Saw some of Nick Drew's photographs as well. So, yes, I'm well aware of what was going on, but all good stuff. Let's have a look. I do like those grabs, especially how, and now you can get bolt-on edges for them. I need to go back and look at that a bit more closely. But it is time. It is time to find out who has won our Simex hat. So let me remind myself yet again. I've only been doing this hundreds of times. There we are. We have had exactly double figures, exactly 10 entries. So without further ado, let's roll the randomizer to see who has won the grand prize. Dan Cullen, who likes a hat, he's won again. I can't believe it. I've no intention of blocking him, but man alive, he does seem to win with some regularity. Dan, obviously, I've already got your address. So congratulations. You are now the proud owner of one Cymex hat. He says, send it to Footy. Graham, you've got yourself a hat, my friend. Now, just on the subject of Graham, he won't be here tomorrow. Not that he needs to explain that, but he's off to get his medical tomorrow. He's got to drive about 2.5 hours there, 2.5 hours back to be declared fit enough to go to work. Can you believe that is the situation? And there's Leslie saying, nice touch, Dan. Yeah, absolutely. And Gary Muirhead saying, well done, Dan, as well. Yeah, well done indeed. Thank you for that, Dan. It's very kind of you. It's the sort of people we attract to this show. Now, I do have a gripe. It's not about you lot. It's about the world, basically. So stick around. On Sunday morning, I took a bunch of cardboard to my local tip. On my way back, I called into our local M&S petrol station to top up the diesel in my wife's car and to pick up a loaf of bread at the same time. I paid, and I was heading out the door when I heard someone shout, "Someone is stealing! Someone is stealing!" My initial reaction was to throw up my arms and say it's a fair cop, even though I'd already paid for my goods. But there, right by the exit, was a man about my age who was throwing random meals into a large black bin liner. I had to walk past him to get out of the shop. Amidst all the commotion, I said to the guy, just put the bag down and walk away, mate. You're going to get nicked. He said, good. I've lost everything and I am so hungry. I offered to buy him some food, but he just threw the bag over his shoulder and walked calmly out of the shop. Nobody chased him. As far as I'm aware, he was not apprehended. Now, let me be clear. I am not for one moment condoning shoplifting. It is a crime, and it remains a crime. The fact that even the thieves in Surrey, are so middle class that they shop at M&S is an irony not lost on me either. But just how desperate do you need to be in order to do that in broad daylight? What has gone so awry in your life that the only way to feed yourself is by stealing from others? And just how skewed has this nation become when we have people stealing in order to eat, when the Prime Minister and his wife are sat on a £730 million nest egg? Anyway, that's my gripe of the day. I'm sure I'll be back with something far more frivolous tomorrow. In the meantime, I'd love to hear yours. What is it that grinds your gears, gets your goat, and generally butters your proverbial parsnips? The Daily Gripe Therapy session will return forthwith. Right, that pretty much wraps up the main part of this morning's show. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like over into the chat to see what you're all saying today. If you can't stick around, please stay safe. Look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. But if you do have the time and the inclination, I will see you immediately after this final word from our key show sponsor, MB Crusher. Got some music going in the background and all is right with the world. Well, I'm going to jump straight to the very end. Luck of the Irish. Might ask Dan to pick my lottery tickets up for me, says Jim Turner. Graham Footy Williams. Thank you, Dan. Sorry I can't spell all the phone spells for me. Graham, we understand, mate. No problem, pal. Enjoy it, says Dan Cullen. What an absolute star. Have a safe day, everyone, says Tim Meaney. Right, I'm going to go back to the very beginning of chat. First off the mark this morning was Glenn Johnston. Morning, Glenn. Hope you had a good weekend, my friend. And thank you very much indeed for joining us. Now, I don't know if Mark Whiting is in the house, but I am going to tell you a very quick tale about Mark Whiting. You might recall that Mark Whiting won our block safety glasses competition last week, I think it was. I sent the prize in a case, sent it off to him. And just to be clear, I'd received a bunch of those block glasses. That was the last pair, but I'd received a bunch of them in a box maybe a year ago. So Mark won. I boxed up his glasses case and sent it off to him. I didn't think to look in the box. Turns out I'd sent him a bunch of lenses, interchangeable lenses, but no arms. So unless he was going to balance the lenses on the end of his nose, he had no means of wearing them. Thankfully, I've been back through my bits and pieces, and I have a pair here with arms that will be going in the post to Mark Whiting later today. Seriously, I've sent him some lenses. What the bloody hell is the point of that? There is our eventual winner, sort of, Graham Footy Williams, who is off for his medical tomorrow. Good morning to you, Graham. There is Gary Muirhead, who has provided me with not one, not two, but 3 new questions of the day. I may have to hold one of them for December because it's Christmas related, but there's some more Gary Muirhead questions coming down the pipe, so keep an eye out for that. Graham Williams says, remember, if you're driving today, drive like a slug. It's 20 mile an hour speed limit now. Was 30, now down to 20. And bearing in mind, I mean, I know it's a long while since we spoke to Neil Edwards, but bear in mind there was a block on all road spending. So not only are Wales's roads in a parlour state and could do with upgrading, but no money's being spent on them, you now have to drive on them at 20 miles an hour. Wales will grind to a halt. Al Grierson, good morning, Al. I have, and I'll get to it in a second, there is a story on World Highways today about Luxembourg Airport. I thought you might find interesting, but I've posted that a bit later in the chat. But good morning to you, Al. Thank you very much indeed for being here. There is the ever-generous Dan Cullen, who has given away a damn fine specimen of a hat. That is going to Graham Footy Williams later today. I'm sure I've got his address, but I will need to check. We'll figure it out somehow. Let's have a look. Mark Whiting, who is going to be getting some wearable safety glasses as a result of me having a bit of a rummage. There's our friend Leslie McGee here. Morning, lads. Good morning to you, Leslie. Thank you very much indeed for being here. I like that, says Dan Cullen. I think he likes the Wacker video. Not entirely sure. Now, my question of the day. Which country has the best food? Hand on heart, I would personally have to say probably Italy. The food in Japan blows your mind. It absolutely boggles your senses. But personally, I think I'm going for Italian, probably closely followed by Spanish, actually. I do love me some Spanish food. But yeah, we'll come to your answers in just a second. In fact, we've already got one. There is Leslie, who's saying Greece. See, the funny thing is, I was in Greece last year, and I ate like a local, but I basically ate grilled seafood, which was fantastic. But I can't honestly. Yes, I ate a bit of feta cheese, and I had the occasional Greek salad. But I can't say I really fully immersed myself in Greek food. I just ate seafood in Greece. I'm not the best person to judge. My wife loves Greek food, by the way, so I'm sure she'd be on board with that. Question of the day, Gary Muirhead is in agreement with me. Has to be Italy. Just love the Italian food. Some of it, I had a pasta dish when I was at the Samota show back, was that May, thereabouts? And it was literally some spaghetti, some olive oil, a bit of garlic and a bit of chilli. There was no meat, no protein, no nothing. Oh my God. Oh my God, unbelievably good. Question of the day, never beat Irish stew, says Dan Cullen. Dan Cullen, the vegan, is shouting the praises for Irish stew. Irish stew is very good, though, I have to say. And I am in Ireland. I do need to remind you very quickly, got a bit of a, as far as this show's concerned, it's going to be a bit of a balls for the next few weeks. There will be no show on Monday, on Wednesday, because I'm going down to the wilds of Essex with the fine folks at Kinsoffer. So it's literally an all-day thing, so I can't be here on Wednesday. I'll try, if I possibly can, to pre-record something or get our news anchor Demolition to do something for you while I'm away. But then the week after that is even worse still. I'm away in Ireland Monday, Tuesday. I'll be back in the UK for Wednesday, and then I'm back on a plane to Italy on Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So this week is going to be slightly disrupted. Next week is going to be virtually a write-off. I will do my best to keep you entertained, but it won't be easy. Justin Carrigan from Awesome Earth Movers is here. Good morning all. Hope you're all well. Certainly fit and well here, Justin. Hope you're well. Hope you're a little not a baby anymore, I guess, but I hope your little one's doing well. Hope the rest of the team, Dale and Chris, are doing well over at Awesome Earth Movers. Chris Ford says, "Hey up, me ducks. Hope you all had a good weekend." while since I've been called a duck, but hey, I can roll with that. There is the first entry, I think, for the second entry actually for the competition. Kerry Jones says, "Okay, so I lost you and landed on last week's show for a bit." Kerry, they're all pretty much the same. I don't suppose you'd notice the difference, to be honest. Good morning. I'm off work today, having a new front door fitted. I could do with one of those. The door that we've got on our front door, our front door, is very, very liable to swelling. And while I was in Germany last week, my wife and my daughter and my son were all locked out. The lock was working, but the door was so swollen it was locked shut. Lots of entries for our Cymex competition, but we know how that turned out. Jim Turner is in the house. Morning, Jim. Hope you enjoyed the XCMG music, chosen especially for you. Yeah, there is our link back to the interview with Anne Mackay that we did back in April this year. And as I say, tomorrow's show will be dedicated to Tommy Williams and to John Mackay, who both lost their lives 4 years ago tomorrow. I'll probably swing back around this, but just so many questions arising from that. If you are... Okay, let's ignore the fact that this guy was... that John Mackay was an access platform operator. Imagine you're an excavator operator and you turn up to a demolition site and you are told to do something that might release toxic chemicals or that might explode. That's what happened there. Now, my guess is nobody informed either John or Tommy that they were going into a potentially life-threatening situation. How does the client walk away from something like this when one company has bid £339,000 to do the job because they are taking all the risks into account, when another organisation bids £99,000 and wins the job? Something's got to give. If you're doing it for less than a third of the price, something's got to give. Now, is that a cheaper method of doing it? Does it mean you've done less investigations? Something's got to give. As I say, we may well swing back to that in just a second. Tim Meany's in the house. Good morning, Tim, over on LinkedIn, but he's also with M&M Demolition. Good of you to join us, Tim, and he entered the competition as well. Now let me think. Well, that looks someplace. Yeah, and bearing in mind, I mean, obviously this is just one of many Wacker Neuson facilities around the world. I'm hoping to get over to their facility in Linz in Austria next year, or sooner, possibly, to go and have a look at some of the excavators in a bit more close-up detail. But yeah, an absolutely vast facility. The office facilities there were great. They had a demonstration area all undercover, so even though the weather was absolutely fantastic while we were there, it was all undercover. Big marquee, which you may have spotted as well, for the entertainment as well. But the equipment, yeah, honestly, I mean, when you look at a site dumper, you know, a site dumper is a site dumper is a site dumper. Not so much when you've got the dual view thing going on, front and forward facing cabs. Think about that for a second. It's impossible to demonstrate it on a video like that. But imagine you're working on a highway where you've only got one lane in which to work. So, to keep the load behind you, safely behind you, you could literally drive that way with the cab facing forward. So, effectively dump truck operation. So, skip behind, cab in front, facing forward. You get to the other end, you dump, you turn the cab around, and then you drive back completely empty, full visibility and everything else, and you can... Just makes perfect sense. Just makes perfect sense. And I have to say, there's a... You may have caught it. There's the swivel cab option, complete with a swivel skip. Imagine you're backfilling a trench or a pipeline. So not only is the skip swiveled 90 degrees to be able to tip directly into the hole, but you are also swiveled to the same degree, so you can now watch that operation in complete detail. just makes perfect sense. Wacker Neuson doing some absolutely fantastic things, including the battery one Bob, as they refer to it. Top notch. Imagine, not my game at all, but imagine you have a compaction fleet of plates and rammers and vibrators for your concrete and all that kind of thing. One battery. Yes, you'd probably have a spare, so you've got one on charge while you're operating, but exactly the same as the likes of Ryobi and the power tool business. So you've got a battery, and I've lifted the battery. There is actually footage of me lifting it. Doesn't weigh a huge amount, a couple of bags of sugar, maybe. All ergonomically designed. You just drop it into the slot, push it forward, you have power. And when you're over and done with on that particular operation, you snap it out, drop it into another, and you can carry on. Absolutely first class. As simple as anything, but really, really smart. The EW100 looks a really tidy machine. Yes, it does. I actually said to the guys at Wacker Neuson while I was there are sometimes you see a machine and it just looks right. And I realise you don't buy equipment on aesthetics, but you just look at a machine and you go, yeah. I remember thinking the same thing about the JCB Hydrodig. Now, bearing in mind, neither JCB nor Wacker Neuson invented the wheeled excavator, but you see those, the Hydrodig and the EW100. It's just like, yeah, that's right on the money, that is. Some nice photos of the equipment. Wait until you see the other photos of the equipment. Yeah, we've got plenty of those. Gigabytes of the damn things. Tom Whiting says, I found you on this side now. Really look like the look of the new EW100. I'm hoping to see one here in the UK. Won't be long at all, I wouldn't have thought. Wacker Neuson obviously very active in the UK. Aren't they up in Stafford or thereabouts here in the UK? So yes, only a matter of time. So keep an eye out for that. And if anybody spots one in the wild, please send us a photograph. Jim Turner agrees. Tidy duck, certainly is. Now that's a busy mine. Obviously, that was the Indonesian thing with XCMG. I'll hop back to our question of the day. I was saying Italian food. Somebody said Greek food. We've had votes for that. Chris Ford, good wholesome English food. There's something for everyone. Is there? I love me some cockney pie and mash. I love me some fish and chips. Not got much after that, personally. Now, it doesn't help the fact that I'm not a fan of the roast dinner. So the idea of roast beef and Yorkshire pudding doesn't do a damn thing for me. Yeah, English food. Now, if you want to say English food that includes chicken tikka masala, maybe I'm a bit more on board. But yeah, but hey, each their own. There is Kent Demolition, Dave Patrick. Morning, Dave. Hope you're fitting well, my friend. Didn't win this time. Keep tuning in. I wonder how many XCMGs have been sold and are working in the UK. Got to be honest, I've not heard of one yet. Obviously, they do have a UK importer stroke dealer now. Used to be a commercial vehicle operation, or they still are, but there's a commercial vehicle company that are representing XCMG, but I've not had a single piece of news to say that there is a machine out in the wild earning its keep yet. Having said that, early days, I would imagine even stocking is probably still taking place at the moment. So watch this space. As soon as we hear, I'll be the first to let you know. Graham Footy Williams, who eventually ended up with the Cymex hat. I won't be here tomorrow. Got to drive to Bristol. That's for his medical. So think about, and I am planning to do a video on this with a bit more depth, but I'm going to probably have to wait until I get back from Italy now. You imagine the hoops that he's had to jump through. He had to reapply for his competence cards because he was losing his under grandfather rights. Obviously, being severely dyslexic, couldn't apply online, couldn't sit the test in the most normal way. Thankfully, Mick Norton, one of our regular viewers here, and the fine folks at Knocken helped him out. He then had to find himself, at enormous expense, a pair of size 17 work boots, and now he's got to drive 2.5 hours there, 2.5 hours back to get a medical to allow him to go to work. Is that the way to make people, or to bring people into the industry? At a time when we're struggling for people, we are erecting hoop after hoop after hoop for people to jump through. It's a nonsense, I tell you. Ken Hatcher says, no one can compete with XCMG as they are a Chinese government backed. They are. I get the impression the way the Chinese operate is they wait for a company to be very successful and just say, yeah, that's ours now. I don't know quite how that works, but that's exactly how they seem to work. So yes, they are Chinese government backed. So yes, you're dead right, Ken. Some kit on that job, yeah, there certainly is. Ken Hatcher says they will take over the world. Headed that way. That's some video editing there. Can't claim responsibility for that, I'm afraid, because that was pure XCMG. Ken Hatcher actually liked the Bobcat video. I do like that kind of video. Just as a small reminder, I'd even suggest, and I know Jim Turner says that I think a couple of people actually, I think Jim and Dan both said it echoed some of the things that they tell young operators. Imagine just having that on your phone and just saying to a young operator, there you go, take a look at that for 3 minutes. That's the basics. It's not going to teach you everything. It's not going to be any replacement for actually working on site, but not a bad starting point. That's a great video, says Dan Cullen. Absolutely. There is the link to that World Highway story on the runway at Luxembourg Airport. That's specifically for Algerson, although all are welcome. If that sounds like the sort of thing you'd like to have a look at, please go and do that. Peter McKenna arrived late, but better late than never, I always say. Morning, Peter. Hope you're all fit and well. Let's have a look. There is Jim Turner saying, I always tell the new operators to use their feet for travel. Much safer to keep your hands on the levers. There you are. These little tips, they all add up, I would say. Dan Cullen, as I rightly said, I say the same things to the guys on site. Lots of people offering to give away the hat, and they ultimately did. There you are. Let's have a look. Give it to Graham, says Tim Meany. Lots of people are doing exactly the same thing. There's Tim Meany saying, have a safe day, everyone. How much of a rat do you have to be to snitch on someone who is stealing food? Yeah. Do you know, one of the things that struck me, and this all happened in the space of, I don't know, 15 seconds. I mean, I was literally walking to the exit, somebody shouted, there's somebody stealing. And I was then face to face with the guy, and I was between him and the exit. What are you supposed to do? You know, am I supposed to wrestle him to the ground? Well, that's never going to happen. Partly because it's not my food, and after he said he was really hungry, at that point, as I say, I offered to buy him some bloody food. But it seemed very clear that the staff at the M&S garage or the Wild Bean Cafe had been instructed not to pursue, which I think is sensible, you know, given the fact that they could end up on the wrong end of a beating or a stabbing possibly, you know. But looking beyond that, you know, you sit here and you watch the news of an evening, and you've got Rishi Sunak, and I'm not singling out Rishi Sunak. I think all politicians are largely the same. You know, they present this rose-coloured spectacles vision of the UK as it stands at the moment. And here is a guy. Now, bearing in mind, and I don't really know what bearing this has on anything, but I live in the stockbroker belt. Plenty of money. You know, I mean, you're talking £1 million houses pretty much everywhere. You know, you can't go more than 10 seconds without seeing a Tesla driving down the road. We are talking a moneyed area. And here is a guy who has basically fallen through the cracks and is now forced to steal food. And I'm not going to say he's unique, because I've mentioned this before. A few years ago, when we lived in our old house, we lived opposite a country park, and walking the dogs over there one afternoon, there was a guy sleeping rough. And for a period of about 3 months, we would take him food. My wife would cook an evening meal with one extra place, and we'd take it over there while it was still hot, and he'd sit there and eat it and everything else. And I got to talking to the guy, and this guy had basically lost his job. As a result of losing his job, his wife left him. As a result of losing his wife and his job, he lost the house, and he ended up sleeping on a park bench. There, but for the grace of God, go the rest of us. You know, you just one slight misstep or one slight twist of economic fate, and that's you. You're sleeping on a park bench, or you are stealing food from Marks and Spencer's. Dan Cullen says, that's strange. I can't see Gary Muirhead's comments. You're missing a treat. They're always good. I'm in pre-op, so keep flitting in and out. Peter, look after yourself. Get well soon. Did Mick Norton get the Bobcat? He did. I think he got it. I'm fairly sure I had a message from him on Saturday, so I think he probably got it on Friday or Saturday. But yes, it's over there. Why diggers and dozers and not demolition news? I'm broadcasting via both channels, effectively, just so you know. So yeah, that's we do both, basically. Grove Footy, sorry for the thing, not legless, his arm. No idea what that means. Al Grierson says, best food, France and Italy. Yeah, I can see that, and I realise that we often suggest that France is the hub of global cuisine. I always find French food a bit too messed about with. I love fish. I love fish and seafood. And if I'm going to eat a piece of fish, just grill the damn thing or pan fry it, stick it on a plate. The French would have to have 97 sauces and garnishes. Don't need it. So, yeah, France not in my top 10 at all. That's better, says Peter McKenna. Felt out of my comfort zone then. Well, welcome to my world. That's how I spend most of my mornings. Question of the day, Irish, Scottish or English breakfast? It's a good call. There's Dan Cullen saying good morning to Justin Carrigan. Andy Dovell, good morning guys. Sorry I'm late. No problem at all. Let's have a look. You're not going to the Hitachi Day Friday of next week? No, I'm not. Again, these things tend to arrive on my desk, and you know there's a clash. And I'm going to Italy to visit my friends at Despace Demolition Company, who are working in the middle of Milan at the moment on something I'd really like to see. So it's a toss-up. Do I go to Hitachi or do I go to Milan? It's Milan. Unfortunately, I can only be in one place at a time. And given the choice, Milan wins, I'm afraid. Yes, it was too late, I'm afraid, Andy. That had already gone. Don't know if it's too late. There you are. It was Tuesday's show last week. That was a good one. You should have stuck with it. I just pulled calf muscle and took the day off as I was walking down the stairs. You're a man of a certain age, Dan. That's the way it works, I'm afraid. Peter McKenna, whether we now have was sat in the English Channel for over 2 hours and produced 15 to 20,000 lightning strikes. We had an absolute firework display here last night. I mean, literally almost like a strobe effect in my bedroom last night. I've apparently missed something very important. I tell you what, I'll come back to that. I'm going to say quick good morning to Anne Mackay. Good morning, Anne. Thank you very much indeed for being here. As we've already discussed earlier in the show, Anne is the widow of John Mackay, one of the two guys that was killed at Redcar 4 years ago tomorrow, and has just heard that there will be no corporate manslaughter charges against anyone involved, which I've told her already, but I'll say it again. Personally, I think it's an absolute disgrace. I think the authorities have let her down every bit as much as the companies and the individuals involved in the project let her husband down. But we will be revisiting that tomorrow. Hope you can join us for that then, Anne. In 1944, World War II, the British submarine HMS Tradewind torpedoed Unio Maru, a Japanese cargo ship used to transport prisoners. It was the world's greatest sea disaster at the time. 5,620 people dead, 723 survivors were rescued, only to put in to work in conditions similar to those of the Burma Railway, where death was commonplace. Unaware of that. That didn't turn up in my search this morning. YouTube caption, Wacker Neuson. Not sure what that means. 100% agree on the EW100. Saw it at Balmer and it looked just right. Thank you for that, Galvin. Yeah, as I say, nobody buys construction equipment on looks alone. But I mean, I've seen the EW100 before, but you just look at it, you just go, everything's in proportion, everything is where it needs to be, even inside the cab. You know, it's not a huge cab, but it's plenty big enough. Everything is where it should be, everything is where it needs to be. They've thought. I said this to the guys at Wacker Neuson. They have pretty much thought of everything. Question of the day: Jim Turner says. Definitely Italian food. Not good for my waistline, though. No, unfortunately, I do have to contend with that. I've been to Italy, or by this time in 3 weeks, I'll have been to Italy 4 times this year. It's had a bad effect on my waistline. Between the beginning of October and basically Christmas, I need to do something because, frankly, my weight is currently out of control. Still got competition details running across the bottom of the screen. Oh dear. Thank you for that, Peter. I thought you hadn't drawn the competition and people just getting on now will think the same. I can't think of everything. I do try, but I can't think of everything. Dan Cullen says, it's unbelievable that Graham has just been put through the hoops just to get a job. It is ridiculous. Yeah, it is absolutely ridiculous. And that was linked, and Flannery wanted me to drive their machines. I'm not sure about any other companies out there who wants to get a medical. Yeah, just to be clear on this, and I do intend to do something more with this, as I've already said, but I'm so up against it time-wise at the moment. We've introduced a culture whereby a lot of companies are now insisting on a specific medical before you're allowed to work as a machine operator. I don't necessarily agree with that. Why? I know you have to have that for HGV, and I think you have to have it for driving a bus or a taxi, but no other industries have that. But okay, I'll take that on the chin. But if you are going to instigate a system like that, you need to be sure that everybody has ready access to the facilities to get that medical. And our friend Graham is based down in Devon. He's got to travel to Bristol to get that medical, and he reckons it's a 2-hour journey there, 2-hour journey back, which costs time, it costs money. So effectively, by the time he's travelled there, had the medical, turned around and come back, he's lost a day, he's lost a day's money, he's lost a tank full of petrol just to satisfy some pen pusher somewhere in the world. I think it's a disgrace. I think a lot of things are a disgrace, frankly. The Bobcat video never mentioned you have to jump through hoops to drive one in some countries. It's a good point. Peter McKenna says, bloody disgraceful. There should be a doctors on wheels service for Seacosh medicals. You shouldn't have to do 2 hours travel to get them. Precisely as I was just saying. And, I realise our GPs are all overworked and understaffed and everything else, but surely, can you not make that a part of it? Just seems ludicrous to me. Too many humps to jump through to get to that airport paving job. Yeah, I've tried to take. Funnily enough, and I wonder if they're replacing the bit that I saw. I actually went to see the paving of Luxembourg airport. Must be close on 30 years ago. I was there with the fine folks at Ham, the compaction company, and we had special dispensation. But obviously, the world has moved forward now, and there are restrictions everywhere. You can't get on the nuclear sites, you can't get on railway sites, you certainly can't get on airport sites. So yes, I don't blame you for not even bothering there. I didn't like the way it go on the Bobcat machine. Let me try it again. I didn't like the way the guy on Bobcat machine. I more prefer top. Ah, yes, you're a top of the levers man, aren't you? I remember we had that conversation before. As a better feel of hydraulic pressure is on the levers, in my honest opinion, says Dan Cohen. All animals are equal. Some are more equal than others, says Chris Ford. Think about it. When you get pissed, not legless now, he's armless. So no arms on the glasses. Okay, now I'm with you. Now yes, Mark Whiting was armless. He's about to be fully armed. Armed and dangerous. Where's the Hitachi Day at? I can't remember. If anybody knows where the Hitachi Day is, I can't remember. I know I had an invite, it clashed, so I threw the invite away. You're having to make some hard decisions at the moment, Mark. Yeah, listen, I mean, obviously I'd like to be able to cover everything, but, you know, when you are just one person and you have this show to do as well. I mean, I'm even ditching stuff because of the commitment to this show. You know, if I thought that it would generate or improve this show, I'm more inclined to do it. But, you know, and we're getting to the silly season as far as the press are concerned now, where, you know, sometimes you're gathered together in London or whatever it might be for a lunch or whatever it might be to, you know, just to glad hand everybody and say what a fine job we're all doing and everything else. And I can't afford to do that anymore. I would much rather be here than going and doing the fine dining thing in London and being told what a fine guy I am. That doesn't happen often, but you get the idea. You said you like fish to eat. Sounds like you're on a seafood diet. Yeah, seafood and eat it. Yeah, absolutely. But that is my go-to. That is very much my go-to. If there is seafood on the menu, that's where I'm headed. Even in the UK, if I go into a pub and there's pub food, my go-to is always fish and chips. Love me some fish and chips. Love me some scampi and chips. But put me in Italy or Spain, particularly near the coast, and I will eat fish and shellfish until the cows come home. I mean, literally, when I was in Greece last year, around about this time last year, actually, we were there for 7 nights. I did not eat meat at all, and it wasn't me making any sort of protest. It wasn't me becoming vegetarian. It was just given the choice between meat and fish. I'm a fish man all day long. Right, that was just an hour and 5 minutes. On Saturday of this week, I'm planning to do that 4 times because it is going to be our marathon show. Gotta be honest, don't know yet what we're going to be talking about, but I'm planning to go for 4 hours. I do have an idea, actually, that will I was thinking I was going to draw up a list of things that we might like to talk about. I'm going to throw this up from Dan. Okay, guys, have a wonderful day and stay safe. Yep, you too, Dan. Thank you very much, and thank you again for your generosity towards our friend Graham. Yeah, I was thinking about drawing up a list of potential subject matters, allocating names against them, and then using our randomizer. So rather this time than getting a prize, we will hit the randomizer, and it will throw up a name or something like that, and it will link to a topic. Haven't figured it out yet. I might just turn up and just bang on, to be honest. Would you consider 4 hours plus? Yeah, that's the plan. The plan is 4 hours and 28 minutes, which will be double the length of any show that I've done previously. But you know, if we can go to 5, 6, I don't know. And I was thinking about potentially using it to I don't know, raise money, get paid. I haven't even figured it out, but I did wonder about, you know, if we can get to 4 hours and 28 and then actually put on the screen, you know, if you want another hour, you'll have to pay for it. I don't even know how that would work. I don't know if it would work. I honestly don't know. Figuring it out. I might just turn up on Saturday with a large flask of coffee and just see where it takes us. But yeah, 4 hours and 28 minutes is what I'm aiming for. If it goes beyond, well, haven't we done well? I'm sure we've got plenty to talk about. I will be throwing it open to guests, so if you are near a computer with a webcam and a microphone, or if you're on a smartphone or a smart device, you can actually jump on and possibly take the strain. I will also have some videos, so that if I do need to take a loo break or need to go and fix myself another drink, I'll be throwing that up so that I can run off and come back. So keep an eye out for that. Or a donation to charity for more time. Yep, possibly. As I say, haven't figured that out at all. but I need to. It's a dangerous thing to think too much and plans go out the window. Let the horse have its head and see where it takes you. It's more or less what we do on a Saturday social anyway. But yeah, I think what I'm planning to do, I'm going to draw up a list of maybe half a dozen topics. And I'll start with one, and when I feel like that one's petering out, I'll just say, okay, well, we've got these other topics. Which one do you want to do next? And let you decide, and then we'll go off down that direction and see where that takes us. By the time we've done that and some video, possibly getting 1 or 2 guests on the show, I'm sure we can do 4 hours. I'm fairly sure we can do 5. We shall see. It's as much a mystery to me as it is to you, to be perfectly honest. Right, people, go and have a fantastic day. I'm going to go and do something else. Don't forget, you can read my latest weekly column. Where is it? I think it was, yes, The Age of Obfuscation. And if that's too much of a mouthful for you, just go over to LinkedIn and find Mark Anthony, me, and you'll see it is my latest entry over there. I'll be back here again tomorrow. As I say, won't be here on Wednesday, but I'll be here tomorrow, Thursday and Friday, and then Saturday for the big one. Till then, everybody, go and have a fantastic day. Thanks for all your input, and congratulations, Graham. Thanks again for your kindness. Dan, see you all tomorrow. All the best.